I was so honored back in February when I got asked to be the speaker for compassion. That's been an aspect in my life that has come back around so many different times that I felt really connected to it. Some of it's been really good, some of it's been not so good, but I think I've got a pretty good grasp on it now. And of course, I never knew that at this point in time, in the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of events in this nation and around the world where our compassion has really been called to the forefront. First of all, with all the race riots and everything in Charleston and all the division there. I don't know about you guys, but what I was seeing online is that even people that I agreed with politically would come out and they were so, I understand their views, but the way that they started talking about each other, like there was so much hatred there. And so it was hard to, I think it's hard to come to any sort of consensus when you're always battling the other side. So even though it's not necessarily a good thing with Hurricane Harvey and kind of getting down to the fact that, you know, we have these real life and death experiences that we have to get over our differences or else nothing's gonna work. So I think those are two little things to keep in mind before I kind of get more into my story a little bit. The next thing I want to talk about is for your icebreaker question, I asked how many different states or countries you've lived in. And so I want to take a quick poll. How many people have lived in only one state or country? Okay. And how about 2? Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we'll stop there. You got the prize. Now, what would you say is one or more than one thing that you've gotten out of living in all of those different areas? Do you think, yeah. Do you think it's expanded? Do you think it's expanded the way you see others or treat others?
The unique thing about all the places that I've lived, both here in the United States and across the ocean, on a couple of continents, is that we are so similar that we become dissimilar. And we allow that dissimilarity to blossom if we just dealt with what and who we are. For example, I was working on a project right after Desert Storm in Kuwait. I was an installation supervisor for radio equipment being reinstalled in the Amir's fleet, as well as working in the oil field. I had a crew of 13 guys. They were from India. They spoke 3 dialects of Hindi. My lead guy had a master's degree in English, but the reason why he was the lead guy is because he spoke 9 languages fluently. And because we could not communicate, we found a means to communicate with each other such that we rocked and rolled forever. And in breaking down that language barrier, we saw who, in fact, each of us were.
Yeah.
And that bond, I'm telling you, it is beautiful. And the same thing in the United States. Each region has its own little way of doing things. Mm-hmm. As long as you're open to that and you can see that, it's like going next door.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's beautiful. The more that we get out and we can experience life in different ways, I think that makes us better able to be compassionate to other people because we get outside of our heads and our own perceptions. You know, we've all grown up thinking certain thoughts or feeling certain behaviors, and that's just kind of becomes ingrained. But sometimes it's good to take a wider perspective on things. So thank you for sharing. That was a beautiful story. So I debated, I rewrote my speech like a million different times probably, because I kept thinking, well, okay, I knew what I really wanted to talk about, but I didn't know if that would be appropriate necessarily, even though it felt very close to my heart. So I went back and forth, and then just kind of recently decided I'm just going to kind of go for it. And it's not going to be the whole complete story, but oftentimes in the store I get asked, why did I start the store? Why did I move to Omaha? Certain things like that. So here today I'm going to tell you a few things that I haven't told a whole lot of people. So I came up with a title for my talk. I don't know if you guys can all see it, but I thought it fit pretty perfectly with a few things. Because oftentimes when you think of compassion, you think of Mother Teresa, Dalai Lama, all of these people that just seem to be happy all the time, and it seems to be really easy. But in actuality, when you're in it and you're having to face some really difficult choices and deal with how you're going to react to them or feel, or how they're going to affect you down the road, sometimes it's not always pretty. So compassion, welcome to the shit show. So sometimes compassion comes to us at the most unexpected times. If we're lucky, compassion finds us when we need it the most. But 5 years ago, as I left my home, my life of almost 20 years behind, I was counting on compassion welcoming me with open arms. In the dead of night, as my 2 little boys slept in the back seat, snuggled amongst our possessions, I was able to fit into our Xterra. We headed west, destination Omaha. Now there's 2 questions that I get asked a lot at Pulp. The first is, why did I open my shop? And the short answer is that I wanted to promote an enriching experience that would benefit the local economy and bring people joy. 2.5 years into it, I have a better understanding of how idealistic this sounds. My background is in journalism, design, and marketing, and retail is a whole other beast, but I'm learning it as I go. So I appreciate all suggestions and critique also. But when I began writing my business plan on a cheap 29-cent spiral notebook, all that mattered was allowing my dream business to take shape. I'd spent the first half of my career working for others, and I'd gotten to a point in my life where nothing was really working. So when enough doors close, why not try a window? The second question is a bit trickier. When people ask why I moved to Omaha, I tell them it was to be closer to family, which is true. But this move had not been some planned new chapter in my life. As I turned the ignition key, my heart raced. Every red light stretched for eternity, and it wasn't until I traveled a ways on I-80 that I was able to relax a bit. That drive was one of the longest in my life, not because it was any different than all the other times I had driven to visit my sister, but because I was different, and I knew this wouldn't be the usual 2-day trip. That night in August 2012, I finally snapped out of the belief that my role in life was just to go along with whatever came my way, which sounds really empowering, but in all honesty, I had become so numb that it was only this visceral fear for my life that prompted this new trajectory I found myself on. I never, ever, ever thought I would end up in an abusive relationship. I was the one my friend called when she needed a place to stay in the middle of the night. I saw the 10 finger-sized bruises on her arm and the dark bruise on her shoulder, and I said, "Jill, you don't deserve this. You've got to leave him." She replied, "It's my fault. I started it," which is absolute bullshit. The next time, she couldn't even stand up straight without clutching her abdomen in pain. Large, dark bruises covered her arms and legs, neck, back, and face. So that first night, when I was with RJ, he broke down and told me that he hated himself because he didn't deserve to be with anybody. He'd been abusive to more than one girlfriend in the past, and I knew he was right. As a compassionate person, I held him as he shared his stories of rampant childhood abuse and neglect, and tears welled up in my eyes and mirrored the pain that streamed down his face. Abuse in any form can be so destructive, but it's heartbreaking when the abused becomes the abuser. Now, as a compassionate person, I believe that redemption is possible in life. I think people can heal and reform their thoughts and actions, but it takes a lot of personal work and introspection. And we can be compassionate to others, but in the end, we are the only ones that are responsible for our actions. So when he told me he was an abuser, I believed him, and I knew I wanted nothing more to do with him. So weeks passed, and I was very sensible about the whole thing. I stuck to my convictions, and even with all of his intellect, charm, and good looks, I had had so many people affected by abuse in my life that I just knew that there was no way I was going to get tied into it. I was a relatively smart person, and so the fact that I found myself where I was something completely unexpected. So even with everything, that would have been that. I would have just left it behind, except for one thing. Starting with my first year in college, our paths had crossed like a handful of times in like maybe 15 years. So this is like, I don't always remember people that I see on a more daily basis, but there was just something about the times that we met and locked eyes, and it sounds like all cheesy and romantic and everything like that, but it was like, time stopped, and it was just like having a feeling like, why am I taking notice of this person? And I had no idea that later the lessons that I would learn because of it. So that was kind of one of the reasons when, after I had like this strange random crush on this guy that I didn't know and had never talked to, and I didn't know his name, like he kind of popped back into my life and he started texting me. I had been through a divorce, and he was saying all the right things and was intellectual and all of these qualities that I really kind of, except for the abuser part, he would have been like a really great guy. And so a part of me was like, well, maybe this is just the universe's gift to me. Maybe this is, if I just kind of keep my distance a little bit, not try, I'm smart, I know, not like I'm gonna try to fix him or anything like that, but if he's trying to be reformed and everything, and I know I haven't been perfect in the past, so maybe we can just kind of see how it goes. For the first couple months, everything was really great. And then it started to not be so great slowly down the road. Now, because this is the first time I'm really speaking openly about this, except to like a few select friends and family, I'm not going to go into details because that's, another talk for another time. But where I found myself was that I was able to have compassion for my friend Jill that I didn't have at that time. Because when Jill would call me up and I would have to see the state that she was in, and when she kept going back to Kevin, I was saying, how could you be doing this? There was my love and concern for her, but it was also mixed with anger and judgment. And so part of compassion, I think, is being able to, see things through other people's eyes. And sometimes it just takes, I tend to be kind of stubborn, and so I've noticed life just like kind of will keep hitting me, not literally, sorry, that's a bad thing, but with the same themes over and over and over until I either change the way I view it, the way I react to it, or just simply, kind of let it go. The other thing, sorry, this is a little bit disjointed. I wanted to like write out notes because it's such an emotional thing for me, and there's been so many times where I've wanted to kind of explain to people why, I may be awkward or why I may be doing, why I may not be very social, because there's things that I've been kind of dealing with and trying to heal from. And I think that sometimes we all have our own stories, and so it's important to just kind of, I guess, keep that in mind. And I see a lot of friendly faces and nodding, and I know that maybe I'm not being, I'm totally being awkward up here. But, so, but the other reason why I wanted to talk about compassion is because I had an interesting experience in the middle 2000s where I don't know if you're familiar, there's a spiritual, like a living saint, Amma the Hugging Saint. And I had never heard of her before, and I don't really believe in dogma or religion very much. I don't say, well, go ahead, go follow her, and which lots of people do. They'll just kind of uproot their lives and everything. But if you can get a hug from the Divine Mother Universe, then, why not? It's free, so I figured I would go and just kind of check it out. Because at that point in my life, I knew that I was really kind and compassionate in some respect, and really humble, like the most humble person ever. But there was this side that I was also like really kind of bitchy and judgy to people, and a lot of times I would look back later and kind of realize it's because I'm feeling intimidated or less than, and so then that's kind of my defense a little bit, but I also still didn't really like it, because if I'm trying to live a spiritual sort of path, then I really got to get that worked out, because otherwise, I'm not doing the work that I need to be doing. So she's got kind of an interesting story. I'm not going to go too much into it here, but you could always look her up online. But basically, I think it's called the Darshan, where all of her followers will come, and she will sit and basically she's hugged people for like 20 hours straight, not getting up to go to the bathroom, not eating, anything like that. But she's very comforting, and so luckily, I didn't have to wait 20 hours because I had never gotten a hug from her before. So I was able to, I think I only had to wait like maybe 45 minutes or so. And as we're going up, you could also ask for a mantra. And so for me, I picked the fact that I didn't like being the judgy person that I was. Now, luckily, they had their I guess, assistants. I know there's a more formal name for it, but she said, after kind of explaining to her, she's like, well, it sounds like you want a mantra for compassion. I said, yes, that would be great. So I get up, the woman ahead of me, and this is just kind of an interesting experience that I'll go over real quick. The woman ahead of me had been in the program that you could do where it's a more intense meditation study, and so their group was being lined in with ours, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but this woman goes up in front of me, and Amma hugs her and pats her on the back and everything, and then the woman just kind of looks back and looks Amma in the eye with this look of amazement, like you could tell she had just reached some form of instant enlightenment right there. And Amma saw it and she laughed, ha 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 ha, ha, and hugged her again and everything. And I'm starting to wonder, what am I getting myself into? I just wanted a hug, but I don't know about all this. So, but nothing like that happened. So I went up, got my hug, and told her that I wanted the mantra on compassion. And then Amma looked at me and she laughed. And my heart kind of sank, because if a really wise spiritual guru is laughing at what you're about to receive, you might want to think twice about it. But in the end, even through all the ups and downs, I wouldn't change anything in my life. I wish I had learned things a little bit sooner. It would have been a little bit easier. But I think the world is a pretty beautiful place, and it really hurts sometimes to see the division and the anger and the hatred that groups can spew towards each other. But we all have a common humanality, and it's in coming out to events like this where I see all of you beautiful people here, and it helps to reaffirm that even though there's some bad people, there's a lot of good too. And so thank you for sitting through my awkward, jumbly mess, and for being a part of this experience, because I was really nervous, and I kept wanting to like email you, Kim, and be like, I can't do it. I had something come up, but I knew I couldn't just let myself punk out, and so I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a good day. So. Oh. Real quick, I forgot. I had one last slide that I really think is a good quote to end on. It says, "Be like the honeybee who gathers only nectar wherever it goes. Seek the goodness that is found in everyone." So I thought that was a little bit of happiness to send you with. So anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it.